Hi, today we're painting Mister Sinister from Marvel United X-Men, the Blue Team expansion box. Mister Sinister's first appearance in Marvel was in the Uncanny X-Men number 221 in 1987. First we're going to start off with a primer. We use a dark gray and then a white zenithal highlight from above. We like to use an airbrush, and we've linked the one that we like to use in the description box below. For the base coats, we're going to start off with 2 parts night sky to 1 part black mix, and we're going to paint that all over his outfit and in the inside of his cape things. Here it is all dry with a couple of coats. And then for the red, we're going to paint with Citadel's Word Barrier Red. That's going to go in the inside of his collar, his belt, the diamond on his chest, the diamond on his head, and the inside of his boots, like the part of the flap of the outside of his boot is red. Then we're going to use Stratos blue for the outside of his cape. And then for his face, we're going to use Company Gray and Ash Gray mix. 1-for-1 mix. And then for his hair and his eyes and his lips, we're going to use a mix of black and deep blue. And then we're going to use Citadel Null Oil for his mouth and the inside of his ears. And I really do not recommend putting it in a dropper. We thought that it would be easier to use, but it just makes a mess. And then we're going to use white for his eyes, making sure that we leave a rim around. And then we're going to use the base coat red again to paint the diamond on his face, and pure red for his eyes. And all these little face details are done off camera because I have to use a magnifier glass to see what I'm doing. And then I used Scarlet to highlight around his eyes, and then I gave a reflective dot of white, but he was looking a lot like Judge Doom, so I later on glazed red over that. And here he is all base coated. For his highlights, we're going to start off with night sky. And we're going to paint all the little sections of his outfit, leaving the base color as the shadow. So for the highlights, I am using the light source as it were to come at him from the top left-hand corner. So I'm only going to paint the top of his shoulders, leaving the darker color towards the back. And all the little sections of his armor. And then using the same blue to highlight his gloves and his boots. And for those two pieces of his cape that are coming out from under his arms, I've only highlighted them a little bit at the end. Now we're going to mix night sky with Stratos blue, and we're going to highlight a little more. So even smaller sections within his shoulder pads, smaller sections of all the little areas of his outfit. A little bit smaller section of his shoulder pads, and a little bit smaller section of those two sections of cape coming out from under his arms. Now we're going to mix Runic Cobalt into the Stratos blue. And we're going to paint even smaller sections for the highlight. A little bit of each section on his arm and his chest, making sure to consider where the light source is coming from. And the blues I used for his outfit are in the Army Painter Fanatic Desaturated Blue Triad. And we also have a link to their Triad colors in our video description if you'd like to take a look. We found that these desaturated blues did a nice color match for his character card. And for the top part of his cape, I'm edge highlighting all the little sections, and then in the middle of those top ones I'm doing little brush strokes right in the middle. Use just Runic Cobalt. More little brush strokes just in the middle and edge highlighting. And now I'm taking the color 4 and glazing over it to smooth it out a bit. And glazing is just adding more water than paint. After each glaze, you make sure that it completely dries before moving on to the next step. Now I'm edge highlighting all of the little areas in the back. Then with the base color, the night sky and black mix, I am going to line all the sections that might have gotten overpainted with highlight, just to define those areas again. Now for his red highlights, we're going to mix pure red with the Citadel red and highlight his belt, those little parts of his boot, the diamond on his chest, and the back of his collar. And I'm only highlighting the upper part of that collar because that's where the light would hit it. And pure red. Since we have just pure red out again, I'm going to glaze over his eyes so he doesn't look like Judge Doom. And we're going to highlight his belt. So what I'm doing is, oh, that's my little wipe away brush. I'm going to edge highlight the top of his belt and the lower part of his belt, and then do little swipey motions in the middle to connect them. Now we're going to add a little scarlet to the pure red. Usually this is a 1-for-1 mix. We're going to highlight the diamonds, a little bit more of his belt, and the top of his collar. I don't know if you noticed, we changed his base up a little bit. We repainted it with a gray and wanted to make it look like the trading cards Marvel used to have. And so all the little tubes and things we painted green, and we're making them glow green. We're going to use company gray to highlight his face. And we're using thin layers of paint. It will take a couple coats. We're going to leave the ash gray company gray mix for the shadows. Now we're going to add white to the company gray. For just white, we're going to highlight the very tip of his nose, the tips of his cheeks, above his mouth, on his forehead, and the tips of his ears. Now we're going to add a little deep blue to the deep blue black mix that we use for his hair. And here we're just going to do a little bit of highlight. So that left corner that's facing towards us, and then edge highlight the left side, and just painting a little bit on his goatee. Now he is all painted. Let us know what you think in the comments below. And if there's any other miniatures from Marvel United you'd like to see a video for. You can see close-up photos on our Instagram at Gnomes and Brushes. Thanks for watching. See you next time.